5 and 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We've got some really creepy and strange stories happening here, and we're going to go over that right now. Again, we have stories out of course, Iran, and we're going to talk about sleeper cells here in the United States, and we're going to talk about this earthquake that a lot of people are speculating may not have been exactly an earthquake. Now, again, the basic science behind this says that this was essentially too shallow to end up being something that was, a nuke test, but people are actually suggesting that this may actually be a nuke test. Now, again, I'll show you this here. It says that a magnitude 5.1 earthquake strikes, and it actually struck in an area that last year in November, the same, almost exact same place that scientists ended up debunking and saying, hey, this is just a earthquake, and that this isn't something, crazy. As far as this goes, our country has a lot of capabilities, and so does a lot of the other major, powers. As far as Russia and China, we know that the countries back in the day actually agreed not to use these kind of weapons. They actually did a treaty because they said that these were weapons of mass destruction. As far as anything controlling the water, the waves, weather, this kind of thing, they basically considered it. They said, hey, we could start a big disaster. They know how to do that, but we don't know how to stop it. And they considered it WMDs. So it's just as bad as starting a nuke, right? Or doing a nuke to somebody. Now, as far as this goes, this was in the territory where people thought, hey, this is a 5.1 earthquake. Is this something where they were testing a nuke? Are they trying to get a nuke together? Now, it all comes down to the depth that this was at that really, kind of puts shade on the fact that it might be a nuke test. So we'll talk about that here in 2 seconds. I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. This is a device that we've recommended for years. This is something that if you put on your car, it's going to protect you against not only an electromagnetic pulse attack, but it also protects you against a solar event, a Carrington level event from the sun. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It takes 10 minutes to put on your car, and then all of a sudden you're going to be able to get home. You're going to be able to get out, but you have to have it on before an EMP, before a solar event. Again, it grounds a signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, generator, gas, or solar. So make sure to go check that out and use code MARF because you'll get $50 off and you'll give credit to our independent media. So thank you. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine.
So as far as the earthquake, again, the depth of it is what really people are questioning, why they're saying that this is not a nuke test or not, something man-made.
It's registering too deep. It is shallow. It's the right range. If it was between a 10 and 50 kiloton underground or 10 or 50 megaton underground test, it would probably range in that 4 to 5, depending on, the size of the blast and the terrain. But typically they do those 200 to 2 kilometers deep. They don't go down 10 kilometers, which is what the USGS is reporting, which I think they report a lot of the shallow stuff just at 10. I don't know why they're not more specific. And this article says 35 kilometers. So again, this is a very, this actual location is very prone to quakes. So it's very common for quakes to be there, but it's also a location of a missile base. It's also a location of their space center, why they would put all that right there on a fault line, but they do. If you were going to do a nuke test and you didn't want anybody to know it, well, you'd put it on a fault line so that people would just, like us, say, oh, it's on a fault line. It was probably an earthquake. Although there's other things they can look at the seismographic waves to determine the difference between a nuke and an earthquake. Nonetheless, at the moment, nobody really knows what's going on here, let alone nobody knows if this could even be some other technology being deployed, which there's been rumors of other tech, like you said earlier, from countries like our own and others that may even have the ability to produce this type of event and maybe being part of, the new type of warfare, non-conventional.
Which would also violate a treaty that was signed before I was even born. So, this is something that if it was something like that, they wouldn't admit. If it is them testing, they wouldn't admit. The odd, there's a discrepancy in at least 3 of the articles I looked at. It says 35 kilometers depth. USGS says 10 kilometers, but they always say 10 kilometers. So if you watch Dutch a lot, has he explained that? I've never got that way. It always says 10 kilometers deep. Is that just if it's shallower than that, they just call it 10 kilometers deep because it has to be because it's Earth or something? But what if it's not Earth, right? What if it was 5 kilometers or 2 kilometers deep and it was a nuke and they didn't declare it right, or, the data was changed or whatever? But again, you also have to look. 2,300 earthquakes happened, over 5.1. I think there was several of them. This is something that's not too unusual, but the placement, the timing, and the exact location, that's what people are questioning. Could they have a nuke? And then this is something we've talked about over the last 4 years, and people want to scoff at this stuff, right? People want to scoff at sleepers, right? And there are some people that just question it. They wonder, like, are sleepers real? I absolutely believe sleepers are real, but it's not like out of a movie. It's not like they're standing in front of a mirror and 3 red light flashes and then they go, oh, I'm to, take out the president or something. It's not like that. These are people that come into our country as secret agents, essentially. They're waiting. They will get a job at construction. They'll get a job at they could be at a firm. They could be a lawyer. And they place themselves into places, where they could be near the location that they're going to do their event. And again, this is through all sorts of things. I mean, there's assassinations that take place where people have worked a job for 5 years and then all of a sudden they're said, hey, you got the opportunity, go do it and go take this guy out. Those are sleepers. We have them in other countries. Russia has them in our country. China has them in our country. These are secret agents. These are, ops that happen. As far as the last 4 years, we know that tens and tens of thousands of people came into our country, and, everybody wants to debate whether they should stay here or not. I'm strictly talking about the people that really, really are working for other countries, and they snuck in through the kind of advancement and the opportunity of the last 4 years. Now, there was already talk about this in December, which I think that people really need to pay attention to stuff like that. And when they don't, they're kind of ignorant, because when stuff does happen, it's like you shouldn't be surprised. If it doesn't happen, thank the Lord and, pray that nothing happens. But the fact that most people don't know that there's a rumor that this year they'll have 1,000 sleeper cells activate in the United States and 1,000 sleeper cells activate in Europe simultaneously. And that's coming from a ex-CIA or CIA spook, whatever. But again, that's something people should know, right? Because if something starts happening, if they don't recognize that, they could make a poor decision based on ignorance. So yeah, again, they are now saying highly vulnerable Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei may try to activate sleeper cells in the West as Israeli onslaught mounts. Of course, this expert is saying. It says, quote, the very fact now that the Iranian regime is volatile, it's targeted, and it's highly vulnerable, that's actually what makes increasingly dangerous to the West. It has nothing to lose. It's about to have this sense of nihilism and affects its rational calculus. So they're essentially saying they're on their back legs. The damage it will suffer will be far greater than any harm that Iran may encounter, was a direct quote talking about, what happens if we end up getting our noses involved. However, Iran is rapidly running low on ballistic missiles and missile launchers. So where did they get that? That's what I don't understand. Is if they said this about Ukraine, they said about this about Russia. They said, oh, they're running out of missiles. They don't even have enough to do another barrage. If they did a barrage like they did last night, the whole country would be out. Remember this? They said this about Russia, right? They said if they do another barrage like that, they'll be out. And then with Iran, remember when Iran did True Promise 2? They said, oh yeah, they'll be out. They're running out of missiles. Well, they also have allies like China and, of course, Russia that can help in that area. Same with North Korea. Dex, do you think it's kind of ironic that they're saying that they're running out of ballistic missiles and all of this when we don't truly know? They admitted they don't know what's in their mountains.
Well, yeah, we don't know. That's just what Israel is saying. It's coming from their military. It's coming from their intelligence. But the when you add that and you say, okay, well, if you think that that puts their back against the wall, And you look at the fact that both Hamas and Hezbollah have not done anything because they were pretty much decimated by Israel before this happened. They're kind of sitting this one out, as they say. Well, that really doesn't leave them many other options. Like, what option do they have left? Well, the option they have left would be to go international and activate sleepers. What else do they have? What other rabbit can they pull out of their hat?
Yeah, so that's something that, there's no stopping it. That's not something we can prevent. You can at least know about it. You can spread the word about it. If something happens, we could fight back too. If something happens and if you see 10 people and you're in a crowd of 1,000, what ends up happening is the 1,000 people run, but there's only 10 people. If there's a lot of people out there if there's at least 20 brave people, they're going to take those 10 guys out. But what happens is they get you by surprise. And if they surprise you, people aren't ready, and then people have, flight or fright, and they get out of there. Now, I'm not saying I know if I was that person in that event, if I'm going to run towards the fire, right? But I will say this, if 1,000 people out of 1,000 people know that something might happen, 10 guys start firing off, there might be people that have played this through their head time and time again, and they say, hey, this is my opportunity. They take those 10 guys out in 10 seconds. But if 1,000 out of 1,000 people don't know about it, what do you think happens? People are caught off guard, they're caught with their pants down, and they start freaking out. So I hope that people realize there are, there's a lot of chatter of sleeper cells in the United States. That doesn't mean that we are afraid to go to the parade or afraid to go to the theme park. But it does mean when you're at the parade and when you're at the theme park, pay attention. Because something may go down, and it could be a Fantastic Freddy for all you know. But you don't want to be a part of it. You don't want to be one of the statistics. And then USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group will arrive in the Mideast waters this weekend. Dex, why don't you go over, the Nimitz on its last mission?
Well, yeah. So this is an important one to think about. So obviously it left the South China Sea. It's in the Indian Ocean, and they're expecting by this weekend it will arrive in the territory, in the Middle Eastern territory, and be in strike range. It's important to know, as this relates obviously to conflict, but there's this other angle, and we talked about this. We were one of the first people to bring this theory up. Over a week ago when we first learned that the Nimitz was going in. This ship is on its last deployment. It's going to be decommissioned next year, unless it gets extended. But it's supposed to be decommissioned. It's supposed to be its final trip. They did not go to Vietnam. Instead, they sent them directly to the Middle East. And the reason we bring that up is there's a theory if there was going to be an orchestrated event where an attack that was to bring America in from an orchestrated style, Fantastic Freddy style, well, would you not leverage a ship that is going out on its way out the door? Not that we want to think that could happen, but we've seen our country and other countries do some crazier things. So keep that in mind. It's not, it's being talked about quite a bit in the circles of theories, but it's one that we brought up when it first left. We said, hey, take a look. This thing is on its way out in next year. It's going to be decommissioned, so it's got some potential.
Yeah, this is ripe for some sort of Fantastic Freddy event. Blackbird says watching in Tasmania. Wow, I bet most people can't even point to Tasmania on a map. I know I actually can't. I look at the map every day, and I cannot think off the top of my head where Tasmania is. Dex, where the heck is Tasmania? Tasmania.
South of Australia.
That's right. Okay. That is awesome. Thank you, Blackbird. And it is very awesome to find some of the people that are watching on the just outskirts of the United States, on everywhere, from Europe, from South America, from Australia, from New Zealand. Thank you, guys. And thank you for the super. And then the Few says, gentlemen, check out the Willis Tower email sent to you yesterday afternoon if you get a chance. Now, I'm guessing Willis Tower is in the subject. The Few, if you can, pop in, reply to your own super there. I think you can. If you can, just put what the subject of that email was. And then it actually shows the four strike groups. You've got the George Washington, the George H.W. Bush, the Carl Vinson, and the Nimitz, all floating around. I mean, obviously, they don't fly. Well, I don't know, like, Marvel will have its way with them soon. If we go by the accepted future of Marvel, then they will be flying soon. But you guys get the point. Something massive is underway. We know this. I mean, it's a fact. There is military moving all over the world. Our military groups, I have been contacted by more military in the last week than we have in 6 months. The last time this happened, there was a lot of rumors of obviously some sort of operation, and this was going on. I want to think there was definitely strife. It was before the first True Promise won the first exchange, so it might have been more than 6 months ago. But a lot of people talked about right before True Promise. So is there going to be another strike from Iran? We'll talk about that tonight over on Marfoogle TV. Make sure to join us for that show. If you want to watch that show, again, all you have to do if you're in the chat is stay there. If you are watching the replay, all you have to do is click here. We'll see you in just a moment. Again, we're going to go in detail about all of the updates, not only for World War III, but for everything else. We'll be right back right after this.